Computer-aided drafting students, this is Mr. Voigt. I am here to teach you introductory Revit skills. Autodesk Revit is the next computer-aided drafting program that we're going to go over. This is an architectural drawing program. You see it on my screen here. What I want to show you is the very first steps of this. This is the screen you'd probably see when you first log in. You may not even have all these drawings up here like I do. I've obviously had some students doing some things. This is, see, it says Revit Intro Garage. This is what you're going to be drawing to kind of learn this program for the first time. I'm not going to click into that because I'm going to show you some of that in these. I'm going to make a series of short videos going over different aspects of how to do this. So you're going to go here, you're going to go New, and then you have to open. Down here, we're going to be using architectural template. Obviously, there's different templates based on what it is that you're trying to draw. If it's the structural part of a building, then you'd be using this, mechanicals, and so forth. We're using architectural, and hit OK. And it brings you to the screen that you saw when I very first went to here. First thing, before we get into drawing anything, you should always have Properties open and Project Browser open. It makes it much easier to do certain things. These can be closed either on purpose or by accident, and then obviously you see this open page. If they are closed and you need them open, go to this. These are called tabs. Go to your View tab, and over on the right you have a user interface, and then you can click them back on right here. You can click off other things. So like I have a status bar down here that I like to have on. This is my ribbon. So there's lots of things you can click on and off here. My navigation bar. Oops. Okay. Anyway, I don't really need to go through that. You can figure that part out. You want to probably keep this bar down here and these here, and obviously you want to keep this ribbon. The other thing, right here, this expands and contracts this ribbon view here. So obviously under each tab, you have all these other commands under each one of these tabs. But you don't have to see all those all the time, although I like to. You see how it collapsed a lot of those down? And then it collapses it further. And then it gets rid of it altogether, everything underneath there. I go back, it just toggles through these settings. I like having all these different things on here. So I would prefer if you see a different view like this view and you can't figure out where those different things are, just come here and toggle through until you find what you want. That's what I like. So I'm going to leave it there. So you want to make sure those settings are there. And then the only thing I'm going to show you in this video is obviously to draw a garage, we need to understand that our garage is going to be this size, outside to outside, and our outside walls are going to be made up of these elements. The very front of the building, if you read this, it's going to be garage wall number 1. It's going to be made up of these. In other words, the layers in that wall you have are there. All walls are made up of like a structural layer that carries the weight of the building and the roof and any floor above it. And this one, that would be this, right? It's a stud wall. Okay, 2x6 stud wall. 2x6s are actually 5.5 inches wide. That's why it has 5.5 here. But it would be a 2x6 stud wall with insulation in it. Okay. On the outside, see where it says exterior? On the outside of that wall, you're going to have plywood sheathing, big 4x8 sheets of plywood, or what we call OSB, nailed or screwed to it. On the outside of that, we have an air infiltration barrier, what we would probably see on the outside, that white wrap that goes around houses before they have siding on them. The brand name, the typical brand name would be Tyvek. That's the DuPont version of it, but there's other names. Then there's an air gap of 1/2 inch between that and then the brick on the total outside. So we don't have siding, we have a brick exterior on the front. On the inside, we have a vapor retarder or a vapor barrier. It's just a piece of plastic, and I can talk more about what that does later. And then gypsum wallboard, which is drywall. Okay, on the other 3 walls, so that's the front of the garage, we have a similar one. Now, I didn't put this in here, but we had an issue where I was going to have you make your own siding here, and I just didn't do it. So we're just going to say put softwood lumber. So our finish layer on the outside of our garage is softwood lumber, air infiltration barrier. So this is the structure for the other wall. So the process is the same. You just got to make sure you get these two built. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So if I want to start drawing in here, I go to the architectural tab and I go wall, architectural wall. And as you see right here, it brings up a wall type. There's all kinds of wall types that are already made. These are ones that Revit preloads in for you. And none of those have exactly what I want. So I'm going to make my own wall type. And the thing is, if I make it one time, it'll save into here and I'll never have to make it again. I'll just have to pick it from this list to go ahead and draw it again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and just use this wall because it doesn't really matter. See, I'm still in my basic wall, generic 8 inches, and I go to edit type. And on this edit type, I'm going to go to duplicate. And what it does is it takes that wall and it gives me obviously a copy of it. And I want to call this garage number 1. That corresponds with this wall right here. See, I told you to name the wall garage number 1. Down here, I want you to name this one garage number 2. Okay? So I named this one garage number 1 and it's renamed right here. Now I can go in here. These are the elements. So these correspond to these elements right here. So I'm just going to show you how to change. I'm just going to do the first one, and then you will go ahead and do this again for garage number 2 and again for your interior walls. So my structural layer, that is the part that holds up the building, is always going to have on either side of it these things called core boundaries. They're just there. They don't have any thickness, but they're there for a reason. Just leave them there. Well, you can't get rid of them, so leave them there. Everything else you put in here is going to go on the outside of these two things. You'll see here in a second. So my structural layer is going to be, and see where it says just by category. If I click this little box here, it'll bring up all these different materials that I can make this. Okay, I want to scroll down to where it says structure, wood joist rafter layer bat insulation right there. Okay, I'm going to click that and click OK, and it goes in there. And I'm going to change it to 5.5 inches. And then when I hit enter, it goes ahead and changes this to a fraction instead of the 0.5. Now that corresponds to this layer right here, right? I just put that in there. So we got to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more layers in there. So we're going to go, I got this kind of memorized, so you would probably have to flip back and forth or pull them up on a split screen to do this. But anyway, so right here, I'm going to say insert. You see where it inserted it, but it's inside my core boundary. So I'm going to go right here, up, moved it up above the core boundary. This is going to be, now I have to change this to a substrate. And it's going to be plywood. If you go back and look at your list, it's going to be plywood sheathing. That right there, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch. Oops. So 0.5, just like that. Okay, I'm going to insert again. Above that is going to be my it's going to be my membrane layer. This is going to be my Tyvek. So that's going to be air infiltration barrier if you look at your list. If I go all the way up, air infiltration barrier, or my Tyvek. Now that doesn't have any thickness. It does, but not enough to write in here. Insert above that, and we have our, we're going to have our air or thermal layer, and it's just going to be air right there. And that's going to be a 1/2 inch. And then, insert right here. Finally, I'm going to put a finish layer, and it's going to be brick common. And that usually has it can come in different sizes, but for us, it's going to be 4 inches. It is 4 inches. Oh, I have 2 inch marks there, so get rid of one and it'll go. Now we're going to insert another one. See how it's up here? I got to go down this time to get it down below that core boundary. So I got all the ones on my exterior side. See, exterior here are done. Here's my interior side. So it's not going to be structure. It's going to be a membrane layer again. and it's going to be my vapor retarder. That's all the way down. This is in alphabetical order, so there it is right there, or my vapor barrier. I tend to call them vapor barriers, but they like vapor retarder in here for some reason. And then finally, another finish layer. I make my finish layer up here, the first one, and then I make my interior one the second one, then the 5. I don't know if that makes a whole lot of difference, but then this is going to be gypsum wallboard. Oops, went past it. There it is right there. And I'm going to go 0.5, half an inch. So I have just made that wall. Now, if I want to see what it looks like, I hit that preview and it gives me, see, it draws all those elements. That's why we do this. And it gives me the proper thickness to my wall. That's probably the most important part. So I'm going to hit OK. OK. And now there it is. So I can go in here and I can click this one. I'm not going to use that wall, but I'm going to show you that there it is in my list. So I never have to draw that particular wall again if I remember what's in it. So I click it and I can come down here and I can just draw my wall, right? All right, so what you would do is do that whole process again, but make sure that your second wall has these attributes, okay? And then you're going to draw the front wall with this type of wall that I have here, and then you click over to the next type of wall, garage number 2, and you draw the other 3 sides. Now, the other thing you can do is you can draw it all. You can draw it all like this. And I didn't even make this the right size. And I'm going to do this in the next video. And then you can size this, and then you can replace these walls just by clicking on them and coming over here and choosing something to the proper type of wall. So we'll show that on the next video.